Tomorrow is the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday, as well as the day the question, what's in a name, takes on new significance. It's a day, David Martin tells us, that honors a hero and shatters a precedent.
The aircraft carrier is the symbol of American power. 90,000 tons of diplomacy, the Navy likes to say. Almost all of them are named after presidents, until Acting Secretary of the Navy Thomas Modly broke with tradition.
So the list of carriers is going to read Washington, Lincoln, Roosevelt, Reagan, Truman, Eisenhower, Bush, Ford, Kennedy, Miller.
Exactly right. And I like it when you put it that way.
That's Miller as in Dory Miller. The next aircraft carrier to be built will be named for the grandson of slaves and son of sharecroppers. The official announcement is tomorrow.
We've decided to do this on Martin Luther King's birthday out at Pearl Harbor.
His closest surviving relatives, Floretta Miller and Brenda Haven, are still getting used to having a carrier named for their Uncle Dory, who served in the segregated Navy of World War II.
That's a great honor because it's been a hard, long road.
He was born in Waco, Texas, and his first name was actually Doris.
So I've never heard of a man named Doris. Where did that name come from?
My grandma thought she was having a girl, and it wasn't a girl. Doris turned out to be a boy, so that's where that name came from.
Waco has been described in those years as the place where the Old South met the Wild West. And like much of America back then, Jim Crow ruled.
White man was yes, sir. White lady, yes, ma'am. You didn't disrespect whatsoever. Don't care how old you are.
There were no economic opportunities for a young black man, so he joined the Navy. At least there, the pay was steady.
Navy policy at that time limited blacks to those duties that were manual, that they thought didn't require a whole lot of intellect.
Regina Akers is a historian with the Naval History and Heritage Command.
When Dory Miller came in, he was limited to the messman's branch pretty much.
What does a mess attendant do?
Basically, a mess attendant takes care of an officer. You lay out his clothes, you shine his shoes, and then you serve in the officer's mess.
Miller served aboard the battleship West Virginia, which on Sunday morning, December 7, 1941, was tied up on Battleship Row in Pearl Harbor.
Dory Miller had just finished serving breakfast and he was sorting laundry.
The West Virginia was hit by 9 Japanese torpedoes and 2 bombs. Miller was ordered to the bridge to evacuate the ship's captain, who lay mortally wounded. What happened next was dramatized by Cuba Gooding Jr. in the movie Pearl Harbor. Against all rules, Miller manned a machine gun.
The irony of this is that back in the 40s, pre-World War II, African Americans were not allowed to have any jobs where they handled machine guns or any type of lethal force.
When the Navy, which Miller had joined in 1939, awarded medals to those who had fought bravely, it didn't even mention the name Doris Miller.
Why wouldn't the Navy, right from the start, at least identify him by name instead of calling him an unknown Negro sailor?
Well, see, you'd have to be a Negro in 1939 to understand that. The status of African Americans, they were treated like second-class citizens.
4 months later, the Pittsburgh Courier, perhaps the leading African-American newspaper of the day, finally published the name, and the Secretary of the Navy grudgingly gave him a letter of commendation.
In his opinion, that's all he warranted. However, others disagreed. The press, black and white press, disagreed. The National Association for the Advancement of Colored People disagreed.
As recorded on Miller's service card in the Navy archives,
There it is.
There you go.
President Roosevelt stepped in and ordered him awarded the Navy Cross.
That was not without controversy. There were some people who did not want him to receive the Navy Cross.
Because of his race?
Because of his race.
He received the medal from Admiral Chester Nimitz, who noted Miller was the first person of his race to receive such a high honor.
He understood the importance of having a black hero to encourage other blacks to support the Navy's war effort.
Miller went on a speaking tour and became a black celebrity in the same league as heavyweight champion Joe Louis and singer Lena Horne.
Some considered him just as important, just as aspirational, drew just as much hope from him.
Is he comfortable with his celebrity?
No, not at all. His goal was really to get to his next ship.
He was assigned to the aircraft carrier Liscum Bay, which less than a year after Pearl Harbor was sunk by a Japanese torpedo. Dory Miller was never seen again.
It's kind of hard thinking of my grandmother, her hurt. She used to say, had I been a white woman, they would have treated me better. But I'm a black woman, and my son is a hero.
Over the years, his legacy has been honored, including with this larger-than-life statue in his hometown of Waco. But that's nothing like having an aircraft carrier named after him.
How many carriers are there right now?
Right now we have 11.
So this is an honor reserved for very few Americans.
Absolutely.
The last carrier to be christened was the John F. Kennedy by his daughter Caroline. Construction has not yet begun on the Miller.
Before this ship actually gets into the water, it's probably 7 or 8 years from now.
And once it gets into the water, how long is it going to be around?
50 years.
And like everything else that's celebrated about Dory Miller, it's going to draw some criticism, rest assured.
So what would be the criticism?
Some may suggest it's more than he deserves. Some may say he was just a guy who did his job when general quarters went off on a ship. What's the big deal?
What was your personal reaction?
Oh, I was overwhelmed. It is tremendous. And it's a reminder, too, that heroism is in no way limited by race, by gender, by background, by rank or rating.
And this ceremony is going to take place on Martin Luther King Day.
Yes. Never would have thought my uncle would have been next to Martin Luther King or even the same day. Now that's beautiful.